My ex-girlfriend showed up at my door after 7 years of no contact, carrying a child and demanding support for a son I didn't even know existed. But the moment she saw my wife, she froze, as if she suddenly realized she had made a terrible mistake. Ever wondered how to balance raising kids and keeping your marriage strong? I've come across countless stories on Reddit where families are facing major challenges, whether it's managing difficult kids or struggling with communication in their marriage. But what if there was a guide to help you avoid these struggles? That's why I created the Complete Guide to Parenting and Marital Relationships. It's a roadmap to help you raise confident, happy kids while keeping your marriage strong and full of love. If you're ready to transform your family life and build a lasting marriage, grab the guide today. My ex Cindy, 30F, now, was 23 when we were together, and we were together for 4 years. We met in college and stayed together throughout. We even got an apartment together once we graduated and lived together for a year before she broke things off with me abruptly and without an explanation. Cindy was 1 year older than me and a senior in college, so I was too shy to go talk to her, and she's the one who had to initiate the relationship. She asked me out, she said I love you first after 6 months of being together, and she is the one who suggested that we move in together after college. She was a wonderful girlfriend. For those who can't tell, this is sarcasm, in every way but one. She was just very insecure. I don't know what it was, maybe it was because I never really took initiative in the relationship or something similar, but she was just always very insecure and jealous, and she'd hate it when I spoke to other girls no matter who they were. So after a couple of fights, I cut off all my friends who happened to be women because Cindy was more important to me than being friends with other women. It wasn't just friends from college who I stopped talking to, but I also stopped speaking to my school friends who'd been friends with me for more than 5 years at that point. I'm back to talking to them now because Cindy's not in my life anymore, and my wife is cool with my friends regardless of gender. But back then, I was just friends with my guy friends, and I wasn't even allowed to go out with them to have a boys' night because Cindy believed that it would just be an excuse for us to all go to bars, get wasted, and pick up girls. I didn't think that was fair to me because she'd forbid me from seeing anyone without her because of how insecure she was, but I couldn't see how wrong it all was because I was too in love with her, and I felt like she was too. She'd tell me all the time about how much she loved me and said that she couldn't live without me, she couldn't imagine a future without me, and whatnot, so I stayed despite everything because I wanted to marry her and be with her. That's all I wanted. But with time, it became more and more difficult to stay with her since she just kept getting more suspicious and weird about me. By the time we were living together, I couldn't do anything without her breathing down my neck. She checked my phone all the time, she'd monitor my movements, and if I didn't update her on my location at all times, then she'd threaten to lock me out when I came back home. So by now, you guys have some idea about how toxic our relationship had turned by the time we broke up. I still somehow found it in me to stay with her, but then surprisingly, she's the one who broke up with me, and it was over something insane because it was just a small misunderstanding that led to our breakup. One day, my sister visited me without announcing her visit, which she usually did to make sure Cindy didn't suspect me and think that maybe I was having other girls over. Cindy wasn't at home when my sister, Lauren, 33F, dropped by. She was at a friend's place because she was allowed to meet her friends, and I wasn't allowed to suspect her. Anyhow, Lauren surprised me by dropping in unannounced, and I was so surprised to see her that I didn't even text Cindy to tell her that Lauren had come over, which I would have usually done. We got to talking and spent around 2 hours together at home, but then all of a sudden, she received a call from her boss and had to leave to go back to work urgently. The thing that caused my breakup was, unfortunately, the lipstick that Lauren had left behind when she'd taken it out to reapply it before she headed back to work. She was in a rush to leave, so she forgot it on the couch, and it was so small that I didn't notice it either. Then Cindy came back home a little after Lauren left, and she seemed happy until she found the little lipstick. I still remember it as clear as day. She sat on the couch and sprang back up as soon as she sat, then grabbed the lipstick that she'd sat down on, and I instantly knew that I was screwed because there was no way in hell that she was going to let this one slide. I tried to downplay it and told her the truth instantly. I told her that Lauren had come over to visit during her lunch hours, and she'd taken out the lipstick to reapply it because she had to go back to work. I explained that she was rushing to go back home, so she'd forgotten to put it back in her purse. But just as I expected, Cindy didn't buy even a word of what I told her for a couple of reasons. Like I said, she brought up that Lauren usually texts Cindy and me both in the text group that has the three of us before she comes over. She hadn't done that this time, and secondly, she thought that it was very unlikely that Lauren would take out her lipstick to reapply in our house because my sister wasn't really one for makeup. She was convinced that I'd had another girl over and absolutely flipped out. When I say flipped out, I don't mean it lightly. She really went psychotic and started screaming at me, cursing at me, randomly throwing things to the floor. First, she went for the cushions, then she threw some books to the floor while raging at me, but then it crossed a line when she grabbed the TV remote and threw it right at me. I ducked and managed to avoid it, but I knew that I needed to get the hell out of there, so I ran to our bedroom and locked myself in. I didn't have my phone with me, so I couldn't call anyone for help, and I just had to stay there by myself for like an hour while she went on and on about how I had betrayed her. She was screaming like a banshee outside the room, and I'll say that I was pretty scared. Then finally, the screaming sort of calmed down, and I finally gathered the courage to leave the room and check outside. I noticed that she was gone and had left the door wide open. I didn't try to talk to her or contact her in any way for the next couple of hours because I figured that she had just gone on a walk to clear her head or something. But then when she didn't even come home by midnight, I started to get a little worried and decided I was going to try and call her. To my surprise, I noticed that the call didn't go through, and after the first couple of tries, I realized that she had blocked me. I tried to text her, but with no luck because I was blocked there as well, and she had also removed me from all her social media accounts. I was paranoid and tried to call her friends, but they didn't answer my calls either, and I guess they had blocked me too. For the next few weeks, I just kept trying to contact her in any way I could, but she just did not answer. After almost a month of trying to track her down, I gave up because I realized that she did not want to be found, not by me, at least. I was completely lost without her, and the next few months were really the toughest of my life. I don't know how I got through it all. All I would do was just go to work, come back, miss her, and pretend that things were fine. People tried to convince me that I was better off without her, but I just didn't feel it. I moved out of that apartment after a year. I tried to stay there because I thought that if Cindy ever came back, she would be able to find me if I remained in that apartment. But after I moved out and had a new address, I gave up any hope of reconciling with Cindy. We never got any closure, and that was my biggest disappointment so far. I was pretty depressed and tried not to talk to women after my breakup because I didn't want to feel like I was betraying Cindy. That changed when I met my current wife, Amy, 27 female. She was a colleague at work, and she was really sweet to me when I was new. And not just me, but she was sweet to every single person in the office. She was beautiful, intelligent, and had a brilliant personality, so despite my best efforts, I couldn't help but fall for her within a few months. I had promised myself that I would never put myself through another relationship again after Cindy, but that all changed when I met Amy. We have been together for almost 4 years and have been married for 2 now. I'm at my happiest with her, and I had honestly totally forgotten about Cindy until recently when she made a sudden reappearance in my life. 7 years had passed since our breakup, or rather, since she just walked out on me like I meant nothing to her, just over a petty misunderstanding. Last weekend, my wife and I were just chilling at home when she suddenly rang our doorbell. I was the one to open the door, and before I could even register what I was seeing in front of me, she dragged a little boy, around 7 years old, right in front of me and demanded that I pay 7 years of child support immediately. She completely tore into me before I even had a chance to speak, and started yelling at me about how she had spent the last 7 years of her life trying to track me down so our son could finally have a father. I just stood there silently while she yelled at me, accused me of being an absent father, and demanded that I pay child support to her and cough up the amount that I had managed to avoid for the last 7 years.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the story, like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out. Share your thoughts in the comments, and spread the word to your friends. Stay awesome and see you in the next video.